Morning, everybody. Welcome to another round of Coffee and Questions. What's today's topic? Let's talk about wire splicing, wire soldering, using shrink wrap, using butt connectors or connectors of any kind, and what's a better way to do it. I'm going to show it to you through slides because I don't have any projects right now to strip wire and show you, like hands-on, but it's a discussion. All right, so Harbor Freight sells all of these things, the shrink wrap, and they sell the connectors. Nothing wrong with them. They have their place, okay? But what I found is, one, they're not waterproof, okay? And sometimes you have problems with the connection after you've crimped them. The wires still slide out on you. You could have some kind of issues, with it, but, there are workarounds on that. You could drop a solder on them, anything like that, and you can make them work. But I use those, the ones, I have a box of them, both, the shrink wrap and the connectors from out at Harbor Freight. And I use those, like, let's say, on low voltage, low wattage kind of things that I do. If it's something inside the house for wiring or automotive, or when you saw me do those trailer flips and stuff, and the rewiring of the boat trailer and things like that, I use better connectors, better shrink wrap. And I use the ones that are waterproof. Now, the ones out at Harbor Freight, the shrink wrap, I don't think that they shrunk tight enough to create a water seal. So let's call them the 2 to, at best, they're like a 2 to 1. But there is, a use for it and a purpose for it. Like I said, I do have, a box of them, and I do have some of the shrink wrap. But if you're looking at, like I said, for inside or the trailers or anything like that, to be waterproof, and still be corrosion resistant and a lot of other better factors, let's say, then you want something better. You want the 3 to 1. Butt connectors, and you want, better shrink wrap. And if you apply too much heat to get the Harbor Freight ones, you think, well, I'll just apply more heat, you're going to end up melting that casing on the wire too. I've done that. Okay, these are errors I've made, mistakes I've made, and I've just learned, like I said, they have a place and a time for using them. But on anything like I'm telling you, like the trailers and so forth, there's no way I would use them. And actually, I took those off, re-stripped the wires, and I approached it a different way, and I'll explain that to you. So what do I mean by they're okay for like low voltage and stuff like that? Well, like on hobbies or, things that aren't as critical, I guess, or aren't as important. Household wiring obviously is, and automotive, and like I said, trailers and so forth, they were more important to me, so I wanted a better approach. Now, one small trick I'll tell you with the Harbor Freight shrink wrap that you can do, they're super thin, these shrink wraps. So if you're going to use them, and let's say that you've already put your wires together and you have that shrink wrap tubing, make sure you put 2 on there. Take the first one, slide it over the wires, and go ahead and heat it up and melt it on there the best you can. Wait, let it cool down, then take that second sleeve, slide it over the first one. Now the second one I make just a little bit longer, and then I turn around with a heat gun and I go ahead and I shrink wrap that. So now it's like double insulated. I found that works okay. I mean, as kind of like a quick fix to things. I know people say you can use a hairdryer or a Bic lighter, something like that. I don't think that you have that good a control over it. I truly think that your best option is use a heat gun. And then you rotate it if you can, or go around it with a heat gun. Now, how hot? You can go slow with these so that you're not melting the casing on the wire itself. I tell you around 300 degrees, maybe a little bit more. You're not in a race here, so at 300 degrees, it might take you just a little bit longer to get that shrink wrap down nice and tight. Try it around 300, don't destroy your other wiring. Just a little tip. Now the shrink wraps that we're talking about, they're PVC. Nothing wrong with that. They're very easy, straightforward to use. But polyfin is a much better material, and you're going to get that waterproofing if you use those. Like I said, especially on the 3-to-1 ratio ones, and I'm going to show you pictures of some here in just a sec. Well, I'll show them to you now. Okay, they have a much higher temperature rating than PVC. They're also a lot more flexible. They're chemical resistant, and the electrical connectivity properties that they're made with, they say are better. Okay, I'm not that much technically into it, but all the way around, these are better. They're better connectors, and you get better shrink wrap. Two different things, but I would tell you to get both. You want a good set of both, because when you're not doing the hobby and the light, like I said, voltage kind of stuff, and you need something that's going to be durable and long lasting, you want the better product. That's what I'm saying. Crimping tool. There's tons of them out there. The Milwaukee one was on sale at Home Depot. I'll see if I can post the ad real quick for you to give you an idea. Because it's more expensive on Amazon. Like I said, Amazon's not always the best price, but I check around with Lowe's, Home Depot, even Harbor Freight, Walmart, Amazon, whatever. Try to find the best deal on what I'm buying. And Milwaukee's a name brand. But I'm not saying you have to buy that, but get yourself a good crimping tool. Okay, so let's say, what do I feel the best approach is? I mean, in using this, let's talk about the 3-to-1s for a minute. Like when I told you, I tore everything apart on, the trailer, the boat trailer, and I redid it because I needed that waterproofing. Okay, so let's say that you have the wires stripped. Here's stripped, here's stripped. Okay, the way I do it, there's lots of ways to do this, okay? I take the wires from the boat trailer. Let's say here it is like this. Here's the other one. And I push them together like this. And then I twist them to some degree, okay? All right, now, if I can get in there with a soldering gun, I go ahead with my soldering gun and I put some solder on there. And I solder those together real well. Okay, and then when they're done and they're dry or, cooled off, then I put that shrink wrap over it. And that shrink wrap, the 3-to-1 stuff has got like an epoxy, kind of binding material in there so that when you heat it, it adheres. It's like a hot glue. It melts, and it sticks like rock hard to the casing around your wiring. And there you go, there's the waterproofing. That's the way that I did it on those, and it's still holding up really well. Now, we also talked about butt connectors or terminal, ends and things like that. Anytime I can get in there and put some solder on it before, like I waterproof it or I put the shrink wrap, I'll do it. Now, let's assume you got 2 wires. Okay, now I'm going to go about it the same way, if I can, is I strip about a 1/2 inch off each side. So I have a 1/2 inch of wire showing on each side, and you got the butt connector in the middle. Now, the thing about a lot of these butt connectors is in the middle, you'll see a silver band. I'll show you a picture here in just a second. Now, that silver band is a low heat kind of solder. Will it penetrate through all those wires from top to bottom? No. But it will. You'll get some penetration around the outside wiring, which is good. There's nothing wrong with that. And then it's got hot melt on both ends of that connector so that when you heat it with your heat gun, and it'll turn around and it'll make it watertight, it'll melt that low temp solder like I told you, and then you got the other side which has got the hot melt glue, and you using a heat gun and you make this incredibly tight seal. That's another really good way to make these connections, and I've done that before. It works really well. You just have to make sure that you're buying good product, okay? It's kind of like you get what you pay for. Okay, in the very beginning, look, like I told you, I made the error, okay? I did it probably several times or more. I got the stuff from Harbor Freight. I managed to get it to work. I'm not saying it won't work. I'm just saying I chose in the long run to use it on lower voltage and lower wattage, like, hobby things, out in the shop or whatever. But when it came to things that I thought were more important, I used the better, product, let's say, the 3-to-1s, both in terms of the connectors and both in terms of the shrink wrap. That's my opinion on this stuff. And I know out at the club, there are people that differ with me on what I'm saying, because they said, no, they use the Harbor Freight ones. They can put a drop of epoxy or something on there and make it rock hard and still sleeve it and all this stuff. I understand there are a lot of other ways that you can approach this if you already have those products. I'm not saying they won't work. I'm just saying there are better products out there, and they definitely are not waterproof. Now what I do on anything that's important to me, I use the 3-to-1 ratio ones because of the waterproofing and because of the superior manufacture. That's all I'm saying. So like I said, it has its place. These are my thoughts on this. You experienced something different, you can drop it in the comment below. Otherwise, I hope the video helped you, and I hope to give you a little bit better understanding if you're having to do some of these projects, what to buy, what maybe to consider. The cost difference is not that much, I don't think, to shoot for something superior depending on what it is that you're doing. All right, those are my thoughts on this. I'm the Home Handyman. I hope you click subscribe. I hope you keep following me. I'll see you on the next video, folks. Bye-bye.